Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, day after show live. We are here. It's good to be back. Neil, thank you for doing this yesterday while I was on a plane. I heard it was the best day after show ever.
Yeah, it can only go downhill from there. Yeah.
But it feels great to be back in the saddle after a couple months off. Last night was a blast, but we've got, of course, as you can all see, we've got two great guests here today. We've got Andrew, for context, friend of the pod, Connor, aka Long Strange Niche. This is Connor's older brother, and JVG, aka Jeff, of the database fame, goosejam.net. How are you guys doing?
Doing terrific. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, doing great. Great to be on.
Awesome.
Show was a heater.
It was, in fact, a heater. We all had a blast last night. It was great, being able to see you guys at the show. Neil, how are you doing today?
I'm tired. Although I did have a 12-minute commute from the venue, which is a record for me at any show ever in the history of my life. I walked out of the venue. My car was parked immediately outside of the venue on the street. I jumped in my car and I sped home as fast as I could just to see how fast I could get home. It took me 12 minutes. So that part was great. The other part of the question is and how I'm feeling, not great. Like I'm a little bit tired because it's a hometown show. So I was like, I'm going to work through all of these shows. So I did do that today. So I'm operating on low sleep, but man, I'm doing all right. It was fun. I'm ready to do it again tonight. It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. Well, let's dive in here. It's great. We were all at the show last night. But let's start with you, Jeff. What was your vibe like going into the show? Were you at Homedale on Sunday?
Was I at home?
No, were you at Homedale on Sunday?
Oh, at Homedale. Yeah, no, I was not. So this is the first show of the fall tour for me. Went to a bunch in the spring, summer, but it was nice. I kind of parked about 10 minutes away. Lines were long getting in, but they kind of moved. Neil freaked us all out. Thinking security was going to be rough, but they kind of waved everyone in. So
Neil likes to err on the side of caution, and sometimes strikes fear into the hearts of his friends by saying it's going to take an exceptionally long time to get into venues.
Well, no, check this out. Like, there's the House of Blues right across the street, right? The House of Blues is famous for being the worst ever. And I heard conspiracy meal. This is this year's conspiracy.
Here we go. Conspiracy meal's back.
So I had heard that it was the same security group doing this place, and I had not yet been to the venue, but I assumed that all had to be true. They're right across the street. They're Live Nation venues, so it all makes sense to me. So I assumed it was going to be absolute mayhem going into this place. Very long lines, them like sifting through every one of your belongings. Not the case at all. I walked through the front door and they were like, get out of the doorway. It wasn't even like they wanted to look at my stuff. They were just like, just get through here. So they were trying to get people in quick. So it worked out in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my first MGM Fenway experience. I'd gone to the Roadrunner, which I think is also you take the House of Blues Boston. Roadrunner is essentially just a much more better operational flow and design. No waiting for drinks, no waiting for bathrooms, and it just acoustically sounds significantly better as far as small space goes. But Ryan and I were talking on the way home, that place, MGM Fenway, is perfectly designed for sound, and all the way down to, I know it's not the sphere level haptics on the seats, but when Trevor was playing that bass, I felt like I needed to pay somebody for a 90-minute massage.
You had a little bit of vibration there, and we were talking about that, I think, with various people yesterday. It's just how much better a venue like this is. Neil, you drew the parallel to the Andrew J. Brady Center in Cincy, which Goose will be playing in a couple of months, which I'm excited to check out. But just in how it's kind of no matter where you are in the room, you're kind of on top of the band as opposed to being really far away. It didn't really seem like there was a bad sight line in the house. I wasn't sure going in how far back the 300s would be, but it looked like at the top of the 300s, it was still great view of the band. And for me also, if I can, talk about Fish for a second, I flew in from Colorado yesterday, and going from, 25,000 person.
All right. So we put an end to that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
I deserve that. But going from a 25,000 person soccer stadium to the 5,000 very condensed venue was really cool on back-to-back nights to have that experience. But yeah, I was excited, to see Goose again for the first time in a couple of months. But it was great. So let's dive into the show here. Let's start with you, Andrew. Your thoughts on first two songs, All I Need into Caution.
Well, I think in order to appropriately talk about the first set, you need to talk about how they bookended that All I Need. All I Need, I think, was a perfect show starter, especially since they opened the tour with the Flopener, fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But All I Need felt perfect for like a 3-night run. And I think that the way that Caution was great. I think that I was telling Ryan, like, there's some Rick level of Khruangbin-esque type of guitaring with that Caution that, like, truly, like, that, for my money, when Khruangbin's playing and it's like you're hanging on every single little note and he's doing those super fast licks, like that was awesome. And then to get the first time played, one in, one out with like a jam to like stamp it as like, hey, this is the first time we're playing this and we're going to throw a jam on it to let you know, like, this one's for real. Because at the start of it, I was like, where are we going with this one? Not so sure. And then that jam kind of was like, oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. And then to close that like first little section out with the All I Need closers, like that, just put a little bow on it. Perfect.
Yeah, there we go. Jeff, what are your thoughts? I guess we'll do that first All I Need sandwich.
Yeah, really fun sandwich opener. I mean, who doesn't love an All I Need opener? It was great. Unfortunately, All I Need seems to be more of a sandwich maker than a jam vehicle these days, but it kind of makes for a nice sandwich maker. So, that's all right. But, I don't think it's opened a lot of shows in the last couple of years. I mean, maybe Cleveland last year.
Salt Shed.
St. Louis. St. Louis early this summer. Goosemas a while ago. I don't know. But, generally speaking, it seems like you're in for a pretty good night if that's what you get early. And, kind of worked out that way. I mean, it was a very high energy rock show. They kind of found a nice deep pocket, and All I Need, 10 minutes in, really full band jamming. I think the smart people call it egalitarian, so we're going to call it that.
That is a word that gets used.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
But and then it's I don't know if it was a segue, but they kind of just melted away into Caution. Caution kind of came out of the ashes of this like smoldering All I Need that just faded. And it was cool. I think it was my first time I've caught Caution live, and I've seen enough shows that any of these songs that are not first time played in regular rotation to catch one for the first time it was pretty cool. It's an awesome song, and I think Rick nailed the phrasing as he usually does in this. Peter seemed like he was having a great time. Rhythm section, like, pretty subtle for a song like this. You kind of expect that, but really great, and I think that was like really a theme of the night. It's like there was just a lot of really good songs, really well written songs that didn't get out there, but straightforward, shreddy jamming that was just kind of a party. And that gave way to this nice debut. A lot of confusion on whether it was a cover or not, I think, at the beginning there, but a cool song, proggy. For all your proggy heads, you get your fix there. Little raw, but I think the jamming potential on it is significant. I think it kind of hit that rosewoody space in the middle of it that I thought was great. And then they kind of pivoted and went in this dark direction and hit this awesome space that I wish they had stayed for a while. It's almost like an San Francisco Wisteria type of space, and then they just ripcord it out, unfortunately, back into Need. But really fun section. Super pumped.
No, I agree. And I think that All I Need showed a lot of real promise going into the show, kind of dipping their toes into the jams. And, one of those things I felt that they were like warming up to the room a little bit. They know they're here for 3 nights. They know they have the breathing room to kind of feel out the space a little, not, dive right off the deep end. And just really, I was just struck by how great the band sounds, immediately from the jump here. Also it's the second show of tour. But it's very evident that they've been in rehearsal a lot the past few weeks. They are sounding tight. And then going into Caution, I thought that last minute or so, the All I Need, when they got into that kind of like melty space, was really cool. And I would love to see them explore that a little more. But Cotter's first caution, Matthew Ross pointed out in the chat, 48 show gap, last played in Flagstaff last fall. But yeah, love this song. Get a little, I don't remember if the intro had that same drum feel to it in the past. I'm guessing it didn't. But it was, I really enjoyed that little new angle to it. And then One In, One Out, Neil, you and I were talking about, it has that kind of like anthemic Peter Gabriel-y quality to it. And I love that it feels like a Peter song, but a Peter song that Rick also had his hands in. There's that How It Ends-y kind of vibe in the chorus. They should play How It Ends. But I really, really like this song. This might be my favorite of the new songs so far. And again, like all the ones that they've debuted so far this tour, shows some real jamming promise, as you guys mentioned. Peter really crushing the marimba piano in this jam. And I thought bringing it back to All I Need was great. Again, would I have wanted the jam to go on longer? Yes. But it was a great segue. There we go. Neil?
That was a killer segue back. Yeah. I mean, that one was nuts. And I still don't understand how you called that. You were like, they're going to play All I Need right now. And then they did. I don't know how you called that one, but you did. So you deserve kudos for that. I don't often give you the kudos, but there it is. Not much more to add.
More kudos to be had later.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that was on the set list to go back into it, was it?
No, I don't know if the sandwich was planned.
Yeah. It just kind of
right. Yeah. It felt right.
It felt right, and they did it, and it was
yes.
It was very, very cool, and it was appropriate for the moment. But just echo what you guys said. The One In, One Out was awesome, very cool, and I think somebody was saying it this morning that it kind of reminded them of Redbird in a way, and that it's like a Peter song that feels like it has giant jam potential to it right off the bat.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that one goes. I'm pretty stoked about future versions of that. But you're right, like the Rick part is just, to me, sounded like straight Peter Gabriel. So crazy, but really, really cool stuff. And like you said, it's cool when Rick has a hand in that. Rick's got his part in Redbird, kind of tiny. He's got his part in White Lights, which is very much a Peter song, which is very Rick heavy. So cool stuff. Yeah, not much more to add on the openers there. Caution.
When you're not going to get a jam on an All I Need, then at least when Rick doesn't say the T on quite, and you get like a true quiet. That's really nice. That's all I say.
Right on. Yeah, and so actually a couple more things that I wanted to say. So Caution started differently this time. In the past, Caution like kind of sounds a little bit like Indian River. Like you're like, oh, are they going to play Indian River? And then like, oh no, it's Caution.
Yeah.
So that was very, very different this time. Very different vibe there. And then the other thing, One In, One Out. I thought that was for sure a cover. So just to echo what JVG was saying, like I was like, there's no way this is a new song. It just kind of had that, I don't know, that vibe that like I had heard this before somewhere. And I don't know, it just made me like the song even more. It's
and
pretty
before
cool.
They launched into the jam on One In, One Out, like they were having fun with it, like laughing, like doing like that thing. Like, and that, everybody's giggling, having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I think the Redbird comparison's a good one here because I think unlike the other debuts this year, it sort of has that feel that once the verses end, that there's the kind of this open-ended potential. I think you saw some of it last night where they went. It was, it started out blissy, it went dark. They weren't. I don't think they weren't quite sure where to go. Super interesting. So I think it's going to be.
And JVG, I think you said like the super blissy part, like at the start of that jam, like I wanted him to like stay and just melt in that little space for like, he could have stayed there forever, like in that little like airy like start of that jam. But like when they pivoted, I was like, oh man, like already, like we're already getting into it. All right, fine. Like you got to move the show along, I guess.
Speaking of moving the show along, second half of the first set here, we've got Turbulence of the Night Rays, Rockdale, Lead the Way, Hot Love, and The Lazy Poet. Start with you here. This is a very Andrew Marr tailored segment.
Yeah, this is just hit me on so many different levels. I've been, in the most cliche thing, I've been following these guys for so long. But I remember seeing Visudo playing Turbulence in the Night Rays at Viva Zapata in Connecticut, like at a Mexican restaurant, and like just a completely packed room, like of like 100 people just like jammed into this tiny Mexican restaurant, just like raging to Turbulence. And my buddy Cooper Hollingsworth in the very front row, just going completely crazy. Song is actually potentially about him in some ways as well. But man, the Turbulence hit, and they decided to use the little smoke effect just to send a little message. Hey, we're about to get into this. It's like, hey, that all I need sandwich was a nice starter, but just to let you know, we're about to take this to another level. And man, yeah, I love Turbulence. It's so much fun. It's great to see like just how quickly, since they added it to like the Goose catalog, that like it became a song that people are like, you know, everybody's singing it.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
I will say, I was not a fan of people clapping along to the beginning of the jam last night. It kind of came through on the soundboard. Yes, I do sing along during shows. I don't know if you guys agree, but I feel like there's a difference between singing along to what's happening and clapping along, which sometimes can throw off the band a little, which I saw happen in Eugene in 2023. Please don't clap along unless it's like Empress or something where Peter is like actively encouraging you. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
I will say, in the audience's defense, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Don't clap unless you're instructed to clap. But in the audience's defense, the time that they were keeping was like that everybody was keeping was like pretty spot on as far as like the time goes. And like there's so many shows that you go to where like the clap does become super like, you know, like off beat, right, like very quickly. I was really surprised at just how far until it like dissipated. Everybody was kind of like on time. So if you were clapping last night,
good job to that at least, but don't do it again.
Sort of.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of new people in the audience last night. It certainly seemed that way. So I'm guessing there was a lot of clapping going on there, which sort of makes me think that anybody who was clapping last night is probably not tuning in to watch this today. So we might be shouting into the void on that one.
There we go. All right. Well, sorry, Andrew, if you want to continue with Rockdale Lead the Way, Hot Love.
Oh man, Rockdale. So I mean, that Rockdale, it was after Turbulence. I was like, at the end of that song, I was like, that's got to be the end of the first set. Like it felt like we've already accomplished so much, and like that would be like I would have been like, thank you, that I've paid my money. I'm happy with that first set. Like I'll wait for the second set. And then they launched into Rockdale, and I was like, man, we're getting another heater. And when they went into the jam with the new clav that Peter was playing, just immediately so funky, and he went into God mode for a little bit there, where it was just like Peter's show. Everybody else was just like
3 clav tweets
in awe of like what he was laying down there, like, and it just like kept escalating. I really enjoyed that jam at the Rockdale.
Yeah, it was great. Well, yeah, let's talk about the Rockdale. Faster tempo, I love it. I was a big fan of the faster Rockdale when it kind of started in 2021, and then they slowed it down a bit for a couple of years, but it's been kind of coming back. Last night was pretty fast. I loved it, just blistering jam. And yeah, it's like didn't go outside Rockdale, but I love clav, as we all know. And so I was very excited for the amount of clav that was in this Rockdale, and it was a lot of fun. Never going to complain about hearing this one. Jeff, what did you think?
Yeah, we had a lot of set closers in the show. Yeah. I mean, there was Turbulence, there was Rockdale, there was T, there was Hot Love. It was just high energy. I mean, Turbulence was fun. Turbulence is always fun. Crushes, good set placement for this for sure. Not too much to say. Rick always kind of nails it. It's a great Billy Joel cover. Of course, shout out to Adam for that one. And yeah, Rockdale, great Rockdale. Like you said, Andrew. Maybe the most fun I've seen Peter have in a while. He went off on that. Crowd was loving it. He was feeding off the crowd. Crowd is feeding off of him. Again, great song. pretty straightforward jamming. I think I think it worked here. The crowd was amped up. You know, they kind of hit that tension release section in it, which I don't know. I can kind of take or leave, but when it works, and it worked here. And you know, they kind of just did that, I think, once, and they didn't get lost, and they just absolutely banged that release. And you know, the crowd just went nuts, which was, you know, really fun. I thought it was awesome last night. I listened to it this morning, didn't quite measure up to what I thought in the room, but still very fun. Band was locked in during Rockdale. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you were mentioning is like it was a faster sped up, which like in my mind of I just thought Turbulence was the set closer. I was like, are they about to like rush through this Rockdale and like shorten this?
Right.
And like, but I think that the faster part, like when you have the slow Rockdale, it's much more of like everybody's hammered, you're holding, you know, arms around each other and you're lay it all down for you, and it like is melodic in that way. But the faster one allows it to like, then the jam, you have much more time to like explore that. And the second Peter started going into that clav jam, it was like, oh, we're not shortening this in the slightest. Like this is going to be a full-blown jam. And then, you know, Rick just picked it right up, and you could hear the crowd just roar after Peter like finished his clav thing. Like everybody was like feeding off of that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Neil, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing to talk about here is this Rockdale. It's the best non-jammed out Rockdale I think I have heard ever.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I don't know really what that means, but it felt super tight. And, you know, you guys already hit on it. Peter was incredible. You don't see that much clav anymore. You don't see clav like that anymore.
Yeah, it's like 2021 levels of clav.
Super 2021 or 2021 shit there. So that was pretty cool. And, you know, anytime you get a taste of that back, that's exciting stuff, you know. So that was pretty dope. And yeah, like I said, the band was super tight. JVG, you already talked about it. You know, that whole Dissonance Peak thing they did just once, you know, kind of reminiscent of early versions of Rockdale where they kind of just did like, you know, tension release, and they do like, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 peaks, maybe just one big one. And it absolutely crushed. And what actually made that work really, really well, I think, was just Peter's playing all the way through. Like there was actually kind of a roar to the crowd before any kind of big release or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was sick. That was probably my highlight of the first set right there, was that Rockdale.
There we go. And then we close out the first set with Lead the Way, Hot Love, which, I mean, you know, just more great first set stuff. You know, I think we all kind of figured Hot Love was coming after it got cut from the first set on Sunday night. But great to hear it. This Lead the Way was the only audible of the night, the only deviation from the written set list. Nothing else was, aside from the All I Need sandwich. But this was the only song that was not written down. Everything else was played exactly in the order that they decided.
So is Lead the Way not even supposed to get played?
Correct. They audibled that.
Well, that's good because like I personally needed it at that point after like a Turbulence, Rockdale, heavy. Like it was like I need something to bring me back down. So because otherwise, like if you had gone straight into Hot Love, like I think people would have collapsed on the floor. Like, I needed that come down to then get back up.
Right. That would have been too much grooving in the middle of your Love connection.
Yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
not supposed to do that.
No,
you're not.
Absolutely not.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on the last 2 songs of the set here?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to hear Lead the Way? It's a beautiful song. They seem to play it a lot in the Northeast too, because I keep catching it. You know, Swansea in 2021 was my first show. Beautiful one there. Portland, Maine. Shortly after that, they played it last year at Leaderbank.
Yeah, Seaport one was a lot of fun. That early set one at Leaderbank.
Yeah, that song seems to find me, and I'm not complaining. It's beautiful. Loved it here. You know, kind of that cool down after Andrew, that part you talking about, that really high energy part, and then, you know, right into Hot Love, which great song. Again, great song. I hit a bathroom break during the beginning of that one. I figure I'm going to beat the set break crowd, but you know, back in time for the high energy close, Beat the Rush. Cotter seemed like he was having a blast. Like he was doing that octopus hand thing, which is bananas. And you know, hometown show for him. So I think he looked like he was loving it. Came through in the music, and the song's gotten really tight.
It's so good every time.
Yeah, that one is one that personally like has such a like, you know, spot in my heart. Like I remember Matt Campbell like slapping the keys so hard to that song, like in Visuto for Hot Love, and like, you know, just the backstory of it. A buddy of his at Skidmore trying to spit game at a girl, and he called him the lazy poet, and he, you know, wanted to, you know, talk about how he was going to woo this girl, and you know, the quote, "The Raven Nevermore" line always hits. Like, there's so many like of those kind of like Matt Campbell MC type of lyrics within Hot Love that like always like just hit me. You can like feel it when it's like a Matt Rick collab type of song. And like the second you hear the and I really think that, like, you know, from my perspective, like it was hard in like the early days of like Goose without MC for me, like to like have somebody else playing keys on like those songs that like I loved when he was like slapping like that. And last night was like, man, Peter has channeled it in like such a perfect way and like made it his own. And he really like explored the jam on that Hot Love that like in a really cool way. I enjoyed that.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Any more thoughts on the first set from you guys before we head into set break?
Just want to remark on just how tight everything felt in this set.
Yeah.
I felt like Rockdale was super tight. I felt like Turbulence was super tight. I felt like Hot Love was super tight. And the story about this show is going to be the lack of jams, but I point back to just how well executed the songs were in this show.
Yeah.
You were kind of talking about it a little bit earlier, and I've kind of said this before when I talk about this band. You know, 99% of concert goers go to a concert and expect nothing more than well executed songs. Then there's us, right? And we're looking for that extra element of like, well, you know, just playing a killer set and absolutely nailing it isn't good enough. We need the jams too. But like, take a moment to appreciate just how tight this was. This band is playing incredibly well right now. And yeah, like you said, Ryan, to start off, they clearly have been in the rehearsal studio quite a bit.
Yes.
So I think we reaped the benefit of that. It was an awesome show to be at. Like this first set, emblematic of that. It was really good and loved it. Yep.
That segment from Neil is sponsored by Fluff Check. Ask your local Jive Goose if Fluff Check may be right for you.
Yeah.
So set break here. Jeff, how are you feeling at set break? You know, kind of going into set 2, and how are you feeling?
I was feeling good. I mean, that might be the cleanest venue I've ever been in. It was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Garbage is everywhere. I don't think there was a line at the bar. I mean, maybe that was because it was Monday night before, you know, at Labor Day weekend. But it was
a merch line.
easy to get in and out. Merch line was insane, but I can't bother.
Yeah,
with that.
shout out to B.
It's way too much time for me. I'm not
Working hard.
That. Yeah. I was just kind of floating around. I hadn't been in there. I went upstairs. I wanted to see the sight lines, you know, how they were up in the balcony. Good set break music. Went down to the lobby, ran into You Degenerates. That was fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we cut it up for a bit, and I figured it'd be a short set break because, I mean, you know, 8 o'clock showtime and curfew was 11:30.
They did time manage well. I will say that. You know,
yeah, they sure did.
Like a truncated show. Even though I was worried about that for sure. You know, a set break was going on for a while. But I think, as Neil and I said to you when, you know, white lights went a little bit past 11:30, I was like, maybe the venue has like 5 like gray area where it's like, you know, if you go until 11:35, it's fine. We're not going to charge you $10,000. But, you know, hopefully that's the same all 3 nights. Andrew, what about you? How are you feeling at set break?
It took me a good 5 minutes to even like be able to stand after that first set. I was just like in awe of like, just like we already talked about, the All I Need book ending, and then just the, you know, bevy of early Visuto MC type jams that like just, I was like, how do you even follow that up with a second set? Like, they're going to come back and play more music.
Yeah.
And then I will say that the one daunting thing about MGM, it's good from a visual perspective because, like you said, you're on top, and, you know, sightline wise, you can see everything that Peter's doing on the keys. But when you start to walk up those stairs after a first set, like, you're like, you got sea legs and it is steep.
You gotta hold it. You gotta hold the railing.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Like the operational flow of that place, no bathroom lines, no drink lines, everything that you need, you can get in and out. And even like if you had to go during the middle of like a song, which we'll talk about it in like the I think it was probably like the Western Sun. There's like a little part like if you wanted to sneak out for a quick bathroom break, that was a potential like escape, but still get back, and you didn't necessarily miss anything. That was
Awesome.
great set.
Neil, anything to add on set break before we head into set 2?
No, nothing much to add about set break. It was nice to kind of walk around the venue. Merch was crazy.
Yeah.
Poor Naveed, we went to go say hello, and he looked like he was dying on the
You're drowning a little bit. I'm surprised in a 5,000 person venue that's the only spot for merch, and that they didn't have, like that they don't have something like I feel like that's the only negative actually, because if you look at where the merch line was, it was up multiple staircases, and they had someone working.
Yeah,
like,
they had a dedicated
organizing the
sign
line.
holder. Like this is
So,
where you come to get in.
At least they had that, but
Yeah.
I was shocked at a venue that holds this many people that there wasn't maybe a second merch somewhere on an upper level. I hadn't been up there. I didn't know if there was room for something like that, or just have a couple more people to help Naveed out. But yeah, huge shout out to Naveed, who was working his ass off last night. I'm sure he'll have his hands full the next 2 nights as well. But shout out to Naveed.
Yeah.
So moving into set 2 here, we open up with this hot tea and this tumble. Very high energy stuff. This hot tea, not your average 20-minute hot tea, which is great. There's a couple of really cool minutes of jamming in here. Peter using that phaser piano sound. I absolutely love it. Nice OB6 work as well. This felt to me that they had discussed that kind of drop into the funk that they did here, because it felt like Rick kind of like gave a look at Cotter instead of saying something into the talkback mic, and they all kind of dropped down into that more minimalist groove for a while, and it felt like there was a good couple of minutes of just full band improv, egalitarian as it were, and building here. But Neil, let's hear your thoughts here on this tea.
On the tea, I mean, this was really, really good. I need to go back and listen to this one again.
Fluff
Some
check.
people, what's that? Fluff check?
Fluff check.
Yeah, no, I'll do it. And so, just so folks at home know what we're talking about here, good friend of the pod, actually, Jive Goose, said this morning that I was going to fluff this hot tea.
And he's correct.
Damn it, he's right, because I really liked it. And I think his point was that it's hot tea and it never really kind of has an expensive jam to it. But there is a good segment of this hot tea that gives me hope for more hot teas to come. Listen, I've seen a lot of Goose shows over the last 4 years. Hot tea can kind of wear on you after a while.
Yes.
Like, it is what it is. You hear a lot of hot teas, and then they go do something like this hot tea, and it was really good. And I was really excited to hear it. Again, this was that full band jamming thing that they're really trying to sit in and be patient about and letting things develop. I think it can be kind of redundant. It can kind of like sound like it's all in the same lane for a little bit, but like it doesn't matter. I think here it actually worked really, really well, and they didn't really continue with it for very long. I think that was like my one complaint about this jam. But in the end, we got something different than what is typical from hot tea, and like that makes me pay attention and get really excited about it. So I think this was an amazing set opener. Which I don't think I would normally say that about hot tea. So
no,
it was really good.
I mean, we were both kind of apprehensive when they started the show or the set with tea. We were like, okay, like what's going to happen here? And so they did exceed the expectations, which was great. Jeff, what were your thoughts on the tea?
Yeah, I think this tea was for all the people who don't like tea. It was really good. Except for
Jive.
And it's a I don't know. I think it's a better opener than it is closer. I think Rockdale is too, for that matter. Kind of a roar went up in the crowd when Rick hit those first notes. Peter was really front and center, like basically this whole show, and just crushed this tea.
A lot of Peter's.
Yeah. Trevor seemed to really kick into gear. He sounded a bit low in the mix by my ears earlier in the show. I kind of heard second half of the stream, he might have been a bit low too, but by this time he seemed to be kicking in. Peter textures were everywhere, and then they hit. This was it wasn't like a boring's the wrong word. It wasn't a standard T where you've heard it, a million times. It was different. It was interesting. They didn't play it for that long, which maybe was a blessing, because I think maybe that's one of the reasons this was so good. They found this incredible spot, hung on to it for a while, left us wanting more, and then got out. It was, I think my boy Simeon called it like intergalactic tea, which is a nice phrase there. It hit that space I love, where it's like sort of funky, really dancey, maintained a bit of a connection to the original song, but gets the crowd worked up. Which when I'm at a show, I'm looking for jams, and I'm looking for people having a good time, energy to feed off of. And this was, I think it was just flat out good. And it might have been the highlight of the show for me. I mean, we can talk about the Empress later, the Tumble after this, even the Rockdale. But, frankly, that's what was kind of weird about the show. If you had said those songs were the highlight of the show, you might have thought it was a bit of a throwaway show, or a bit of a substandard show before you get the next two nights of the run. But all of them were played really well, and I thought this team was great.
Awesome. Andrew, your thoughts on the tea, and then take us into the Tumble after.
Love it. Yet another MC song. So at the end of first set, I'm like, how are you gonna follow that first setup? And as soon as so, of course, that's how you do it. That's the logical way to start the second set after finishing with a Hot Love. To your points, everybody's points, hot tea can be repetitive, and I think that's by design in a lot of ways. It will get you weary in your knees, and it's that same old repetition, as they say. But at the same time, if you jam it out and really like do some cool things in the space between those repetitive parts, that's where it's a lot of fun. And I think just having seen it, I saw it at Sonia in Cambridge in 2019 or something like that. Shout out Greg Knight for hooking me up with a ticket that night. I was riding solo and actually met my buddy on a complete coincidence whose favorite song was Hot Tea. And it was like one of those where, we're probably not going to get it because that really wasn't in the repertoire that much at that point. And sure enough, they played it and it hit. And I was with that same buddy now, years later, seeing where they've come from like a Sonia standing room only of like 250 people to now a sold out, MGM Fenway 5,000 capacity. And it's so cool. It's just awesome to just see the progress that it's made.
Awesome. And then what about Tumble?
Yeah. So man, honestly, like the Tumble is like, I don't know. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on the Tumble first. Like, I think the Tea and Tumble were both so like high energy that like I needed the Western Sun when it came. But I'll defer to you guys on your thoughts on the Tumble first.
Let's go to you here, Jeff. What do you think?
I mean, they certainly weren't letting up. They kind of went right at the Tumble for the Tea.
Yeah.
High bar for Tumbles this year. Kind of regardless of where you think these Tumbles fall in the the Jam of the Year, whatever rankings. I think there's no question they've stepped up this song this year, played it really well. I liked it in the room. I thought it was really good. I actually thought it was better when I listened back to it. I think there was kind of more going on than I remember. There's an absolute like 2 guitar assault at the beginning, which was really fun. Peter hung on to that for a while. And I think, in the past, I think he's, switched maybe a little early or a little late from guitar to keys, but I think he seems to be getting really comfortable doing it, hanging on for as long as he thinks is necessary. And he switched into keys at pretty much the perfect time. I thought it was a good call. I mean, I don't know if it's Philly level or, certainly not Philly level or Cap or CMAC, but it was a good Tumble. It was a good spot, high energy, almost reminiscent of sort of the 2019 era Tumbles. That was just shreddy. Didn't really go out there, but just fun.
Yeah, I felt it didn't really overstay its welcome. It's not one of the things we talked about last year is like, here's a 20-minute Tumble that doesn't really do a whole lot. I feel like, if this Tumble was 5 minutes longer and just did what it did for 5 minutes longer, it would have felt like a little bit too long. But I think that keeping it to 15 minutes was perfect for what they were going to do with it last night. Again, one of the things that I was looking for last night, obviously that was missing, was like that deep improvisation. But just in terms of having a great time and really enjoying myself, like this tumble was great. So I thought, Neil.
Yeah, just weird slotting, right? To start off this second set, you have like a hot tea opener, and then you have tumble in an incredibly weird spot. This is like where you would expect to see kind of longer, bigger jams. It's like a classic spot for like a wisteria or something like that.
Yeah.
And like you're getting a shorter tumble. And also interesting that the last tumble they played was The Man, which is an absolute monster. And then you have this like much shorter version. Similar, Rockdale in the first set, the last version played was at New Haven, which was incredible. My favorite jam of the year so far, because I just eat that dark stuff up. But then, we have this kind of shortened version. But, it hit and it did what it needed to do in the moment. It doesn't all have to be, jam of the year stuff.
Yeah.
So, I like the way that it started. It was good. But, like, that is a weird spot for a tumble. I don't know how often Tumble has showed up as, like, the number 2 song in the second set. But, like, it's been a while, I think. Probably they did it like a few weeks ago, and like I just don't remember. But like in any case, somebody will come with the stats and prove me wrong. But I feel like that's right.
Yeah.
So, and now,
yeah,
I will say my couple of thoughts on the tumble. So I think Getty is so locked in on tumble, like he knows it so intimately that like his lighting choices on tumble, like especially when we got the like he's hitting every single one of those like so perfectly that like even if it's a shorter tumble that isn't super jammed out, like especially after a tee, like those lights were hitting perfectly at that point. And that's that, I felt like the same way of like Goose missed night 1, like that tumble in a similar way, like what Getty was doing with the lights. Like I just feel like he is like so connected to that song, like probably because they play it so often that like he has so much experience with knowing exactly when they're going to be flip switching.
Yeah. And now the moment that we've all been waiting for to talk about, Western Sun. I can't even speak. Western Sun Jam is back.
No talking during Western Sand.
It's back.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Hold on.
They jammed it. I don't care how long it was. They jammed it. That's like the Atlas Dogs at the Cap didn't do a whole lot.
It was a jam tease.
It was back. And it was jammed. And
I would not.
A new synth, and it's
awesome.
Would
not assert that it is back. It was back for a moment.
Okay,
but like that doesn't mean the next time they're going to play like
bluff check.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's a one-off thing. I would not expect this again. It is not back. It was just momentarily back. You
gotta believe, Neil.
It's like saying the Shamrock Shake is back at McDonald's. Like you can't always get that. It's just a brief moment in time. You experience it briefly and then you move on.
Maybe it is back though. We don't know.
Dunkin' Donuts already brought back pumpkin spice, so like anything can happen.
Anything can happen. But Peter has a new synthesizer as of last night. It has replaced the Nord Lead, which is his oldest synthesizer that he's always had back to 2019. That little one that's been on top of the clav so far this year. He replaced it yesterday with a Moog Muse, which is that beautiful floaty sound that you heard in this Western Sun Jam. I love that. I wrote in my recap of the show this morning. The OB6 is a much more aggressive sounding synth. It's very forward. It's very in your face a lot of the time. And the Muse, at least the patch he was using last night, was just very gentle, very textural, and let the rest of the band just kind of do their own thing. Without that. Like sometimes the keyboards take up a lot of sonic space. Especially with like piano or even, with the OB6 when he gets some of those crazy sounds going like we heard in the Modavon on Sunday night. But this allowed really to just let the rhythm section and Rick shine and everybody just collectively improvising together. So I absolutely loved this little jam. And then Peter expertly segueing it into the way it is. Shout out RJ. It was so good. So good.
Yeah, I needed that Western Sun after the tee and tumble. Like it was one of those where it's like, all right, I'm gonna sit into this chair. We're gonna let Rick's beautiful voice soothe us. Which I mean, vocally, Rick sounded so good on that Western Sun, and it was like the perfect come down before you go back up. It was good.
Yeah, real good. Jeff.
Yeah, I was writing down a couple of notes last night on my phone. I wrote like jammed a Western Sun ! And then it was like ... kind of. But it was great. It was great to have it. It was really cool. It's sort of like when you get like a Bob Don with adjacent. It was there and it was
Right.
great to hear. But it's sort of maybe it's a taste of what's to come. It was a great little jam tease. It was awesome to have it back. Everyone around me was sitting during Western Sun, which I get. Everyone was tired. But it was just that kind of vibe. I think Getty was crushing it. Not like with the bright lights in your face, but he was making these tapestries on the back wall that were just really cool.
Love when he does that.
Yeah, it was great. And again, it's a great song. And then Peter had that nice sly little segue into Way It Is, really smooth. And again, sort of Peter front and center. Yeah, fun
Every
segment.
song in the second
Did not
set
expect that segment. It was cool.
Yeah, every song in the second set had a Peter solo.
Yeah.
Interesting to note. I guess Tumble maybe not, but close enough. Neil, your thoughts on Western Sun Way It Is?
I mean, that the jam in Western Sun, although brief, had a ton of Dragonfly in it to begin with, which like I was pretty excited about that. I'll take a little tiny bit of a jam if you get like a little snippet of Dragonfly, not like super composed Dragonfly, like really riffing around the the elements of Dragonfly.
As it were.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could call it that, but a jam on the Dragonfly theme, I think, is the better thing to say.
Contained elements of Dragonfly, would you say?
Yeah, it was awesome. So that part was really cool. That was actually probably one of my favorite parts of the set. What else are we working with here?
Way It Is.
Oh yeah, The Way It Is, of course. Why did I forget? Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing about seeing The Way It Is, especially if I'm with you, Ryan, is taking a video of us singing The Way It Is so we could send it to RJB. I was going to send it last night at like 11-something p.m. And then I was like, well, I'll wait because it's a school night probably for his kids. So I sent it to him this morning, and I feel really good about that. It always kind of fills me with warmth just sending that to RJ. For those who don't know, RJ of Osiris Podcast fame really, really wants to see The Way It Is.
And the band likes to play it the show before.
Sometimes the show right before. Yeah. But if he misses it, it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside to remind him that he missed it. It's so much fun. So we did that. So like that was exciting.
And then take us into Empress. Let's finish up.
Wait, hold on.
Wait.
The transition from Western Sun.
Yes,
to The Way
thank
It
you.
Is was beautiful.
So good.
And like post Goose Miss, that song has has so much more juice, and you can feel it. Like you can just feel it in the way that they're playing it. Like it's like you guys must have played this with Bruce Hornsby or something, because like this clearly means a lot more to you than it ever had previously. And I'll never forget with Goose Miss, Bruce Hornsby just like gilding the lily for as long as possible and just not giving it to you until you absolutely had to have it. And then he drops in with the, iconic bar. And I feel like Peter, having sat in with Bruce doing that song and watching him do that and like take those liberties to like really just like hold it from the crowd, like you could feel like he was doing that. And like I feel like he felt so much more comfortable to like explore that. And so it wasn't like as straightforward of like a Way It Is. Like he was like, again, it is a Peter highlight show for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Empress here closing the set. Very similar kind of deal to Portland and Westville, towards the end of the summer. You get this incredible, like thrashy dark jam for a few minutes in the middle. And this is the point where I was kind of looking at the clock like, is it an 11:30 curfew? Because usually, when they're dropping an Empress there and it's like 11:10, they're going to kind of run through it pretty quickly. But I was struck by like, they're not in a hurry here, like maybe they do have a little more time, which was great. Again, that's been one of my worries going into this tour, looking at showtime versus curfew at a lot of these venues. So happy to see what they did with it last night, and hoping that trend continues. But Jeff, what did you think of this Empress?
Yeah, dance party ending to the show, which made a lot of sense. Peter had those sweet callbacks to the way it is at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
Outstanding. I love when he does that. He's fucking talented. It's amazing. That's what I started looking at my watch too. It was 11:10, and I'm like, are we finishing this? And the non-coring it didn't really feel like a non-core show. So, you kind of expected it to be cut a little short, but they hit that digital saucy area, which was really cool. I like the direction Empress has gone this year. I'm not usually looking for Empress. It's always fun, but not the ones I'm looking for. But it went in a really cool direction. That dark riff, I swear I've heard it before. Maybe you guys know what it was.
In Empress, I think.
What's that?
I think it's like the same jam that they've done in Empress a couple of times. Very similar.
Yeah, that dark jam. I've heard it a bunch. It's great. Kind of second time they did that tonight after that the debut song.
Yeah.
But really fun end. It fit, absolutely fit.
Yeah, there we go. Andrew,
love. I mean, again, just MC roll call of another Matt and Rick song. MC always likes to get spooky with his lyrics, and the lyrically, Empress is it's so dense, it's got so much going on with it, and then when they jam it out and it gets dark and scary, it's are we getting ready for Halloween? Pumpkin spice lattes are coming back around, and so I think that I love that Empress. And again, it was one of those where it's if it's a one night show, then maybe, and they aren't doing 3 nights, then maybe they do something even crazier as an encore. But then to transition into the White Lights as an encore, felt like it's okay, to be continued, not so much we're putting a close on this.
Yeah.
It was a good we'll see you tomorrow type of thing.
There we go. Neil, anything to add? Empress and White Lights here?
No, just a great end to the show. I mean, yeah, I agree with you guys. Empress is just awesome now. And, the guaranteed sauce is cool. No sauce the whole show, and then you get it right at the end there. A little bit of taste of the sauce. And, didn't go as far as we would have hoped, but it was good. And then, I love White Lights as an encore.
You didn't leave. You had been saying for days and weeks leading up to this show, I'm going to leave during the encore. And then you didn't.
Yeah, no, I didn't even make a move towards the door. We were talking
a lot. And I was like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And you were like, no, I'm staying.
Yeah, I'll stick it out. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's not like being at, Great Woods. If you're from Massachusetts, you know what I'm talking about here. I haven't missed a Great Woods Fish Show since 1999. And I have not caught
in July.
Well, I missed one. Okay, other than that, it was at the Run though. All right, but every single show, I have missed at least part of the encore because I'm inching my way towards that exit. Because there's no way that I'm gonna. Well, not every show, but many of those shows, I've inched my way towards the exit. Most of them, I'm out first.
You're a big fan. Yeah, you're a big fan of efficient exit.
Yeah, you know.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Father.
There you go. Jeff, anything to add here before we wrap up?
No, I mean, look, it was just a fun show. It was a high energy rock show.
Yeah.
No all timers, maybe a couple that'll kind of hit the back end of your playlist that, you have some nostalgia for that were really fun. But just a fun night. The only real lulls, I suppose, if you call them that, are, lead the way in a Western Sun. But if you think those are lulls, we're probably not going to get we're probably not going to get along. So
those were necessary lulls.
Yeah,
they had.
I totally agree.
Otherwise, people would be on the floor.
Yeah, well, we have a great point.
I think they set up well for the next couple of nights. It was a great night one.
This is a great point from Matthew Ross in the chat here. It wasn't a substandard show because they basically crush everything now. But if we're being honest, we won't be talking about any of these jams in a week. And I have a feeling that he's right. Not to discount how much fun last night was or how great the show was. But I have a feeling that the themes that we saw pop up in the Hot Tea and the Western Sun are going to end up being developed in bigger jams over the coming shows. And so that's going to render these ones they were the genesis of it. But, I don't have the feeling that any of these are going to, grab me to come back. In a week's time. And I hope that's right. I hope, we're in for some big jams tonight, ready for another show in a few hours. It's going to be a blast. Of course, as always, if you see us, say hi. Looking forward to night 2.
What's your opener call, Neil?
Switch.
Come on. Switch it. It's always
Always switch it.
JVG.
Animal.
Nice. I like that. That feels appropriate. I'm gonna go. It's either gonna be Dr. Darkness opener tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair
I'm going to
call.
say Elizabeth opener tonight.
Ooh, I like
There you
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern to recap tonight's show in Boston. It's going to be a good one. We've got our good friend Avi Sage joining us, which is going to be a blast. Thank you, Jeff and Andrew, for being on today. It's been a pleasure chatting Goose with you guys. I really can't speak today. I got to get back into the flow of things here.
Maybe you need a nap, Ryan.
Maybe I do, but I got to go, do stuff now. But we'll see you at the show. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning into this day after show. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great time.